Yeah, but also, lastly, we got to have this on camera now. You know, Base the Kid. He's very confident. So, what is your prediction for Errol Spence, Terence Crawford?
Crawford inside 9 rounds. I've not wavered on that in the last several months.
And I've got Errol Spence in the 10th.
So you're both going for stoppages?
Yes.
Okay.
And Base the Kid.
First time he's told me that, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm going for the 10th. I'm going for the 10th for Errol.
Okay.
And Base the Kid, he's made a wager with me.
on that. How much is the wager?
250.
Oh, damn.
50 quid.
And here's how special the wager is. The wager is not that who wins, for me anyway, it's that Errol Spence gets knocked out by Terence Crawford. So even if he wins and he doesn't get the knockout, I still got to pay him. That's how confident I am.
My days.
Errol loses on points, I still get the 250. So yeah, that's how confident.
Come on, man. You can't be taking that, man.
No. I will give him the money.
You can't be taking that, man. Nah, man. Trust me.
If man doesn't do the job, I'm the one. I posed.
Okay. I ain't rating that though. I won't be rating that.
We're gonna have it.
If Bud gets the victory and he doesn't get the knockout, I won't be rating that. If you're taking the P, it should be a mano bet.
No.
Cool.
That's
Okay.
funding my Polish trip to Usyk vs Daniel Dubois. Thank you very much.
Well, no, he's just gonna have £250 less spending money. That's all.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to end up on goulash rather than steaks.
But that's how confident I am. I've been that confident for years. Like it's unwavering. It's not even about the win. It's the stoppage. He is going to stop him inside 9 rounds.
Damn.
Welcome back to the weekend wrap. I can't even say no production today because, as you just saw, I had to insert that little clip from the neutral corner that was recorded last week Friday on Fight Fan TV Live. So shout out to Lex and Danny Glover for having me on. Sorry that I busted both of your hopes and dreams. You didn't see it on there, but Lex also picked Spence to win, I think via stoppage. I can't quite remember his one, but Danny obviously predicted 10th round, 10th TKO for Spence, and yeah, it didn't quite work out that way, did it, Danny? Okay, so we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Let's talk about sort of, I guess, the weekend as a whole, although I guess we have to start from Tuesday. So Stephen Fulton against Naoya Inoue. Now, I got the right person. I think most people did, but I did not expect it to be as one-sided and dominant as it was. I did expect it to be a comfortable win for Inoue, but I did think the first sort of 4 to 5 rounds would be a bit more competitive than they actually were. It was pretty much one-way traffic the entire fight. The only round, I didn't even give Fulton a round, but I did give him a share of the 7th, I think it was. It was the 6th or the 7th. I think I gave him the 6th round as like an even round between the two. Outside of that, yeah, it was an Inoue shutout. It was dominant. It was like, pound for pound stuff. It was elite level stuff. It was literally making, a world class fighter look average, look like a novice, look like a rank amateur. And he did that. So hats off to Inoue. Definitely top 3 pound for pound. A lot of people had him as number 1 at the time, and you know what, I can't even argue. Yeah, it was just a one-sided beatdown. Rabesi Ramirez was also on the undercard. Now, to be fair, he was facing Satoshi Shimizu, who I had seen before, but I'd never seen him look as gangly and awkward as he did in that particular fight. Now, I thought that Rabesi was going to take it to points, like win, a very wide points decision, but no, he got a knockout as well. So shout out to Rabesi, 5th round knockout for that one. I didn't see anything else on that particular card myself. Actually, no, I did. There was a guy whose name I don't remember, but I'll put it in the caption here. Like he's a prospect, or I guess like sort of coming up just outside that prospect level. But he was really good. So that's one to watch for the lower weight classes. Again, because I'm doing this off the cuff, I haven't done my research. I haven't got all my names and facts down. So yeah, I'm gonna put his name up here so you can kind of see that. But look out for him if you're into the lower weights, if you like watch Japanese boxing or anything like that, because he looks like he's one for the future. All right, so moving on to this week. So if we go to Friday, we had the Top Rank card that was also taking place in Las Vegas, which had Sanisa Estrada versus I think it's Paula Elena Udkah. And this was a voluntary defense of her WBC and WBO light flyweight titles, no, minimum weight titles, sorry. On the undercard of that, who else was on the undercard? Off the top of my head, I can't even remember who else was on the card. But that being said, that doesn't take away from the fact it was actually a very good card. Carlos Balderas against Nahir Albright was on that card. I remember that fight. That was a really good fight as well. These are all going to be on the breakdown, by the way, so it's going to be a long one this Tuesday. It's going to be a very long episode. But yeah, that was a good card. Balderas obviously, I guess, didn't step up to the plate, and Nahir Albright did. There was a couple other decent fights on that card as well, but yeah, my brain again, it's a bit frazzled. It's early in the morning. I don't normally do it this early, but I just wanted to get this one out and get all the takes off. But yeah, going into Sanisa Estrada versus Paula Elena Udkah. So this was a very competitive, very good fight. Sanisa had a lot of trouble sort of working out her range and her distance, especially sort of in the mid to late rounds, which is weird because that's normally when she sort of has got her range, got her time and everything down. But she's had a lot of really good work done in the first 3 rounds of the fight, and then it's almost like Udkah made all the adjustments towards the back half of the fight, and Sanisa was getting caught with shots coming in. She was getting caught with the overhand right quite a bit, some left hooks as well. She was landing a lot more of the, I guess a lot more in some of the exchanges. But if Udkah didn't have only 1 KO to her name, I think Sanisa would have been in a lot more problems than she actually was, because she took some of those shots really flush, and someone with a little bit more power would have, I feel they would have closed the show, or they would have capitalized and at least wobbled her if for nothing else. But hard fought, gritty battle. She got the W in the end. I think all 3 of the scorecards were 97-93. Now I had it 96-94, so with it just being 1 round, I didn't necessarily have a problem. But there has been a lot of times where, Sanisa Estrada, she's been in a war, and then she's getting like 100-90 on the scorecards, or 99-91. Luckily, this wasn't one of those ones, but I still thought it was a little wide, but I could accept this of all the others. Yokasta Valle was there as well. They were saying that they wanted to do the undisputed fight. Now Yokasta was saying, well, they didn't offer me enough money to do it in the USA. But, you guys want to come to Costa Rica, we can do it there. Like, I sell out stadiums, not theatres. Taking little jabs at Sanisa's drawing power. I thought that was a nice little dig. And obviously it was in Spanish. I've been properly drilling down on learning my Spanish for the last month or so. So actually being able to understand the majority of what she was saying without the translator was quite fun, and that's definitely going to be an advantage moving forward for me. But yeah, big one. Well done for that. Moving on to the Queensbury card. I didn't watch any of the undercard except for Moses Atama versus Kevin Espindola, and I remember I bet on Atama to get the KO. I know that Espindola's only ever been stopped once by Frazier Clark, and that was actually due to an injury and not necessarily punch damage. But I thought Atama would maybe, get to work, and he's a lot more spiteful, so I thought he would actually sort of drill some of his punches in a bit heavier. And obviously, once you kind of pull out of a match one time, you will have a habit of maybe doing it again if the going gets tough. But he didn't really step on the gas in the first sort of 3-4 rounds, and I heard that he did say in the corner like he was worried about blowing his tank. So that's obviously something he's got to be mindful of. Maybe after what happened to Matty Harris last weekend is that's on his mind, or possibly even after his last fight with Dobyshenko, when he got tired after sort of the first 3 rounds and was basically just boxing and moving for the next 3. So he kind of busted one of my accumulators, so I had to readjust and put on another one with some other fights. But yeah, to be fair to him though, he wasn't the only one that busted it, but he was just the first. So it was a bit hard to lose the amount of money I put down on that accumulator so quick within it without being able to do a cash out or anything like that. But it's fine. Like I said, I readjusted, did another one, and we'll get to that a little bit later. I saw the main event, Davis versus Cunningham. Now, initially, in my initial thoughts, I thought, this is going to go points. Neither guy is really a puncher like that. But then during the lead up and seeing and having a look at Liam Davis's record a little bit more, 13 fights, 5 KOs. Okay, it looks a certain way, but the KOs are coming towards the back end of the record, which kind of then tells you that, okay, so he's been stepping up the levels, but he's been KOing fairly decent people. Now, Cunningham, his second to last fight was still that brutal KO he had from Zolani Tete. So I said to myself, actually, you know what? I think he might get a stoppage in this one. I did not expect him to get a stoppage in the first round, though. So that is Jason Cunningham's career pretty much over at this point. That was his 40th fight. I think that was his 40th fight. So really and truly, there is no need to carry on unless it's literally just for paydays and you haven't saved anything. Like if you're getting stopped in the first round by someone like Liam Davis, then there is really no point in continuing on, unless you just want to be a journeyman now for the up and comers and just sort of collect a couple paychecks to get beat up by prospects, which he might do, and I'm not saying that in any disrespectful way, but there is anything outside of that, like there's no route back to an English title, Commonwealth, British, European, so you might as well just retire with your health intact at this point. But yeah, I was meant to be up at that card, but things happened, situation happened. I couldn't really justify the expense while I had some other things sorting out. So yeah, but I will be at the next Queensbury card, which is taking place in York Hall on the 18th of August. Now, to the Showtime pay-per-view card, well, the TNT Sports pay-per-view card over here. So I watched the entire thing. I saw Yoenis Tellez against Sergio Garcia. I've actually, someone told me that he employed the sort of same tactics against Fundora, being a bit of a pressure fighter, which is weird to me because Garcia is not really a strong puncher like that. So to go into a fight as a pressure fight, it feels like you're just giving opportunities to someone that's clearly more of a boxer puncher. Now Tellez was actually took the fight on 2 weeks notice, so he wasn't Garcia's original opponent, and I feel like he basically made the most of his opportunity. He was 5-0 with 4 KOs, Cuban prospect. When I saw the matchup, something said to me, hold on, they got Garcia as the favorite, but you don't put a guy that's a 5-0 prospect in the ring with him unless you really rate this guy highly. I saw the Cuban, I was like, I got to put. So I actually bet for him on one of my cards, one of my other bets that got busted a little while ago. So obviously he wasn't in the new one, but you know, so it goes. But yeah, took out Garcia in the third round. A devastating overhand right, which he basically, it was a counter right hand over the top. Garcia's legs dipped like he was doing a squat. He's almost like he then looked at the referee, turned back, tried to move his head, but then got hit with a straight right down the pipe, which knocked him to the ground. He got back up. He was a bit unsteady. I think he got up a bit too quick in my opinion, but he sort of came back, was tucking up. He did get caught with a few things. He tried to fire back a bit. He got caught with a few more shots, landed on the ropes, and the ref basically jumped in as he was about to sort of counter. So he was upset. He's like, look, I was actually, you know, I was defending myself. I fought back, but the ref said, no, it's kind of done. And I'll agree with him on that one. It was a good win for Tellez. I want to see a bit more of him. He's trained by Ronnie Shields, so that's a bit of a red flag for me at this point in time. But I want to see sort of how well he develops. I know that obviously David Romero Jr. is also trained by Ronnie, so maybe he does well with the Cubans, or they just like what he does. Who knows? But yeah, I definitely want to see a bit more of him and see if he can do anything in the sport. So I'll be keeping an eye on him. Next up, it was the legend Anita Donaire against Alexandra Santiago. Now, in my initial breakdown video on Tuesday, I had Donaire winning on points. I said that I feel like he'll keep Alexandra behind the jab. So I don't think he'll be able to stop him, because obviously tough Mexican knows how to handle himself. He's been in there with some big punches and he's a good operator. But I felt like Nonito would do well and just kind of control it behind the jab, and sort of just using that backhand sparingly, just enough so that Santiago wouldn't try and rush in. But obviously I did the video on Tuesday. After Tuesday, I'd found out a little bit of news, and big up to Jamie on Punch Perfect Boxing, and just a few other people that I spoke to, or I guess I heard from and spoke to, just about some things that were a little bit concerning about previous camps and this camp. And obviously the fact the fight was delayed a couple of weeks as well. Basically, when I did my bet, I purposefully didn't put Nonito on the card, purely because when I like a fighter, a bit like when I like a football team, I can't bet against them to lose. It's just something I do. So I just had to leave it off. But I was actually going to go for Santiago on points if I did do that. But yeah, I got that one wrong, obviously, on the day. It's a shame that, you know, the fight sort of took place the way it was. As I said, he's a legend. I still, hopefully I'll have him on the breakdown, not this week coming, but next week, just sorting that out. We were supposed to do it before the fight. Things happened, so it has been rescheduled. I'm just confirming which date so I can let everyone know. It's going to be a lot more of a different conversation, I suppose, than the one that I had planned, but that's fine. He's still a legend. He's still a certified Hall of Famer. Whether he decides to hang up the gloves or carry on, you know, I'll watch at least, provided he's not in there with anyone that's just, you know, maybe too big, too strong. Because yeah, the one thing you never really want to see from the legends is them carry on for so long that they just start getting beat by people that they would never have lost to, you know, in their prime, or even before their prime, or just after their prime. And that's kind of, I feel like, what happened this yesterday technically. But anyway, yeah, moving on. You had Isaac Cruz against Giovanni Cabrera. Now this fight was hella boring, especially in the first sort of 3-4 rounds. It picked up a little bit in the middle rounds, but towards the back end of the fight it was also just not very engaging. Cabrera was obviously boxing a move in the first half. He sort of stuck his feet a little bit more towards the back end of the fight, when I think Isaac Cruz just basically just ran out of gas. But yeah, it would have felt a lot better if that fight and then the Nonito Donaire fight was swapped around, and Donaire ended up being the co-main instead of Isaac Cruz. Yeah, not really much else to say. Like I've always said, that Cruz is kind of garbage as far as I'm concerned. Like his claim to fame is going the distance with Tank. Everyone knows what I think about Tank anyway. And since then, he's ducked any meaningful fight he could have just for the opportunity to potentially get this Tank rematch, which more than likely is going to happen this year, November, December. Yeah, but and this time he probably will get knocked out because he's just, it is what it is. I'm not gonna go too deep into it because, like I said, if you've been on the channel enough, you already know my thoughts. Moving on now to the main event. So, as I pretty much predicted, I said quite emphatically, you saw at the start of the video, Terence Crawford inside 9 rounds. That has been my thought process ever since the fight was made. I always thought that Terence stopped him, especially after the car accident. I was like, when that happened and he came back to the ring, the first thing I thought is, this fight's never actually going to take place now, because Crawford ain't going to get no respect for it, just because, he's come from an accident, he's not the same, blah, blah, blah. Before that, I always thought that Crawford would win, but I was never certain on the KO. I just thought maybe, win on points. But, yeah, as I said, as soon as this fight was predicted, inside 9 rounds, no thoughts other than that. I mean, if it had have gone 10, 11, 12, I always knew the knockout was coming, but I was very, very certain that it would be inside 9. The Udkah fight, to me, as far as I'm concerned, told me everything I needed to see. And even last week, I watched the Danny Garcia fight properly I can't even say it's properly. I was like skim watching it. But actually, I never watched it previous because I wasn't interested in it. I knew Spence would win because Danny Garcia's not all that. Especially since he moved up from 140. But I saw some of the same signs in that one that I saw in the Udkah fight, and I said, yeah, he's not going to last in the ring with Crawford, because Crawford is leagues above these men, and it showed. And ultimately, again, that's just another PBC guy that gets taken out by a top rank guy. Now, yeah, of course, Spence is no longer with top rank, but the fact still remains, like, when the two come head to head, it doesn't end well. And it now shows you why the PBC and Al Heyman tried to act as if Terence Crawford didn't exist for 5 years, since he moved up from 140 to 147, even to the point where they had Manny Pacquiao and Yordenis Ugas on as the WBA champions, and didn't, the super and the regular champ, and didn't put Terence Crawford on the graphic. And that was back in, I think, 2020 when they done that. And yeah, it just shows you why, or if it's 2019, one or the other, but it shows you why they knew this was coming. For all the fans that said, Errol's just too big, too strong, I always said, and I saw on videos, so you can go and check any video, I'll put links to them all down below. Yeah, Spence is the bigger guy. I don't think he's the stronger. I've seen Bud's strength, like I said, I've seen him deadlift in street clothes over 400 pounds like it was nothing, and he was weighing about 150, 155 pounds at the time. Like, that's weight that I deadlift, and I'm about 60, 70 pounds heavier than Bud is. So you got that. Like, I've seen him wrestle guys twice his size and get them to the ground and like maneuver, get in the pocket, find angles. I've seen him do all this stuff, so I just know in the strength department, you're just not going to out-strength this guy. I told people, they didn't want to believe me. Well, you've seen it now. Now, I predicted that Bud was going to be a dominant and decisive victory. I'm not going to lie, I didn't expect it to be a total blowout. I thought Spence would be in it for sort of like the first 3 to 4 rounds, and then Bud would just take over and basically just, take him apart from there. I didn't expect it to happen from the first, or from the second even. I mean, the first round was close. So essentially, the only reason I gave it to Spence is because he was a little bit more active, even though Bud was still, he found his range from the first round. But he just didn't land as much as Spence did. But from the second round, when that knockdown happened, and I'm not sure if I'll put it in the video, I'd have to look. I probably didn't, which is a shame. But I had a thought the other day, is like, I can see this fight going Spence is like, he'll get knocked down. I can see him getting knocked down early in the fight, and I think I said around round 3, and knocked down there, and then he sort of fights on, and then gets knocked down like a couple more times, and then gets stopped like after that. I don't know if it was in the video. I need to double check. It's not gonna be double checked to put into this one, but I'll put it in. If I find it, I'll put it in another video. If not, then it was just something I thought. And obviously you can say, oh yeah, he's just saying that in hindsight, cool, and I'll take that, because if there's no evidence, it didn't happen. But I know it's the same as when I had the dream about Joe Joyce, and you know, getting knocked down in the 2nd and knocked down in the 4th, and obviously he got badly hurt in both of those rounds against Zhang. I don't know. They call me Nostradamus. When it comes to these big fights, I seem to be getting a lot more of them nigh on, bang on, as opposed to, you know, more often than not. And it's just weird, like, you know, most fights, you know, and you say you're confident of your pick. Like, I wasn't confident of this pick. Like, I was certain. Like, I had no wavering thoughts, and the All Access, everyone else talking, oh, it's a, you know, he does this word. My mind just told me it's a certainty. This is happening, and it happened. So you guys will be happy to know that Danny Glover has, you know, in fact wired me my money. It is in my bank account right now. He is, you know, he's, you know, been cussing and screaming at me on Twitter all morning, but he did pay up as he was supposed to. Now the only other thing I gotta wait for is the pay-per-view numbers, because if it does under 650, well, if it does under 600, I make another £100 off of G-Chain, who should be watching this video also. Big up to you. If it does over 600, then I gotta give him 100, unless it's in between sort of 6 to 650, because I'm not gonna pay for that range, or I might give him like half or 60%. That's my choice. But yeah, so that's the only other thing to decide now about if I make any additional money on there. But yeah, I made a nice chunk of change on one of my bets that I put on. I made a nice chunk of change from Danny Glover. I'm about to make a nice chunk of change from G-Chain. So overall, it's been a good weekend. And they're going to be funding a couple of my trips and a couple of my excursions away, doing what I do for my platform and for the Undefeated podcast. So thank you very much. Yeah, catch me on Monday Night Smoke tomorrow, because yeah, Danny Glover will be holding a copious amount of corn on Monday Night Smoke, and he'll get a little bit, you know, a little couple slide backhanders on the breakdown on Tuesday. He's still taking over for Tony, who won't be back by that time. But yeah, anyway, look, let me shut this one down. I've probably been talking for about half an hour now. I apologize, but it was one of those long weekends where things need to be said. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the fights. I hope it was money well spent, and I hope we can now put to bed just who is the man in the welterweight division. And yeah, I'm not even tired, but I might go have a nap now, seeing as I've done all my work early. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.